So, hey guys, welcome back to Pi Analytics, your go-to place to learn Power BI and creating end-to-end Power BI projects. So here we are with another tutorial, and in this one we will be walking through how to create a detailed, insightful analytical Power BI report using indicators for heart disease dataset. And in this project we will be exploring trends, that what indicators and what are the effects for different medical patients habits such as smoking, their physical health, their mental health, their alcohol drinking habits, diabetic patients, what effects does it cause on patients suffering from heart disease and one which is not suffering from heart disease. So we will be analyzing it all and creating a report based on our data set which has all the indicators for people suffering from heart disease and for not, and it has all the attributes and everything that we'll be exploring. So without wasting any further time, let's start building our project and let's dive in and see what this data reveals. So this is our data set, and we have a data set for heart disease patients. So basically these are all the indicators. This is the first column is for the heart disease, as that this particular entry has no as a heart disease, so that means this particular patient is not suffering from any heart disease. This is a basically no or yes column, and this is their BMI, whether they are smoking or not, whether they are consuming alcohol or not, whether they have suffered a stroke or not, what's their physical health, mental health, do they have any difficulty in walking, their gender, their age category, their race, whether they are diabetic or not. So it has that yes as a diabetic, no as diabetic. If they're borderline diabetic, then we have this particular statement, and there's one where in it is written as yes during pregnancy, that these patients suffer from diabetes during pregnancy. Then do they physically are they physically active, yes and no. What is their general health, is it good, very good, or excellent? What's the sleep time, this is in hours. Are they suffering from asthma or kidney disease or skin cancer? So basically these are all the indicators that we have that are present in this data set, indicating that the patient is suffering from heart disease or not. And in this physical health and mental health column that is right over here states that, for example, it is 3. That means this patient has reported that there has been issue in his or her physical health for the 3 days in the past 30 days, that this patient has suffered from mental health problem from 30 out of 30 days. This patient hasn't suffered any problem in such as physical health or mental health, that's why it is 0 0, and so on. So this is our data set. It is quite a long data set. It has limited attributes, but there are lot of rows. Like this data set has more than 3 lakh rows, so it is a very huge data set. And so we are going to create a report. So let's dive into our Power BI window. So as you guys know that whenever you open a blank report, that this is the window that you get. So we will start importing our dataset. It is a CSV file, so I'll select CSV and I'll import my dataset right here. So as you guys know, whenever we load a dataset, we get load option which directly loads our dataset into the model, or we can first transform it and then load it. So we're gonna do that. So we're gonna hit transform data. Although this data is mostly clean, we don't need as such transformation. We just need to check for duplicates and replace some values, and that's it. So here's our dataset in the Power Query editor. So for removing the duplicates, we will simply select all the columns, and we'll simply select all the columns, and we will go on to remove rows, and we will select remove duplicates, and that's how you remove all the duplicates present in the dataset, if any. Next is that we have to we have to replace values in just this column, because we don't want this statement for like no comma borderline diabetes. Instead it is better that if it is written just borderline, then we'll understand that okay, that patient is borderline diabetic, and we can easily categorize it into one category out of four for diabetic column. So we'll just select this column, we'll go to replace values, we'll type here what we have to replace, and what do you want to replace it with, and you're gonna hit OK, and you will have your values replaced successfully. And that's it for the transformation part, because this data set is mostly clean and it doesn't require any further transformations. So we'll directly head on to creating our report. So before that, we need to hit close and apply. Now it will take a while because it is a huge data set, so it will take a minute to load. Yeah, this data set alone is around 23 MB, 24 MB. As I said, it has more than 3 lakh rows. It is a quite huge data set. After removing duplicates, we have more than 3 lakh and 1000 rows. So this is a data set. It has been loaded. Now before creating a report, we need to create some measures and we need to add few columns which are required for us for creating our report. So for that, you can just go on to table view first, and so as we have a BMI column here, which is an int data type, numeric data type column, as you can see. So we need an average BMI for this column. So for that, we need to create a new measure. So we'll click here and we'll create a new measure for average BMI. So I'm going to name it as this average BMI, which is equals to average. You're going to use average function and you're going to just pass this BMI column. You close the bracket, hit enter, and you have your measure right here. The next measure that we need to create is okay. So the next measure is that we want a measure that provides us the count of the patient that's suffering from heart disease. That is, I want the count of all the values, all the rows in the heart disease column which have the value as yes, so that I can have the number of the patients suffering from heart disease. For that, I'm going to create a new measure and I'm going to name it as patients suffering heart disease, and I'll calculate that by using first a calculate function. Then I need the count of heart disease column where the value is yes. So close the bracket, and this will give me the count of all the rows in the heart disease column which has value yes. So for that, yeah, just hit enter, and I have my measure right here. Next, now what we're gonna do is we need to categorize this age category column. As you can see that this age category column has a range of age for each and every entry. We don't need that. We need to categorize this whole age data into basically three categories, that is a young age, a middle age, and older age. I mean to categorize this whole data of ranges into these three categories. So for that we need to create another column. So we're gonna go to table tools, click new column, and we're gonna name our column as age group. And for this, like categorizing it, basically if I have a lot of values and I want to categorize those values in some particular categories, so I will use a switch function. So I'll simply type switch and I have it here. And in that, first of all, I will, okay, just a second. Yeah, so I will first pass a true function, basically a true value, and then you need to pass all the values that you want to categorize in respectively, such that I need to categorize age category. So I am going to write age category, and in the age category, so I will use this in, then inside these curly brackets you can pass your values which you want to categorize. For example, the first that we have is 18 to 24, then I have next one as 25 to 29, then I have is 30 to 34, then the next one that I have is, okay, for this particular category, that's it. So I want to categorize these three age groups into one category, which is called young age. So after that, what you can do is simply place a comma and write your category which you want to categorize these three values inside. So I want to categorize them as young age, similarly next, okay, I need to place comma first, and then again in the age category I want to categorize now the next set of values. Okay, now for the next category that we have to categorize this age values is a middle age. So for that we're gonna add our values inside this curly bracket, should be from 35 to 39, and then we have the next value as from 40 to 44, then we have from 45 to 49, then we have value for 50 to 54, and we want to categorize all these values as middle age. So we'll write middle age in this double inverted commas and then add a comma for our last category that we want to categorize this age data into. So in the age category, now again in curly brackets we need to enter our values which we need to categorize in the older age group. For that we are gonna enter values from 55 to 59, then we're gonna enter values from 60 to 64, then we need to enter values from 65 to 69, then we have here is 70 to 74, then we have 75 to 79, and the last value that we have is 80 or older. Now we have this string, so we can pass these string values. These all values are passing as string only. So now we need to categorize this as older age group, and if the value doesn't lie in any of these values, then it will be categorized as other. So we'll also write other over here, and that's it. Now I'll hit enter and we'll have our column. It is taking a while. As it is a very large data set, that's why every calculation is taking a minute. So here we have our column, our new column that we have created, and you can check that it is correctly placing all the values. As for 65 to 69, we have listed it in the older age group. So here we have older age here. Next we need another column. Now what I'm thinking for creating our report, we need this. That is what I thought and analyzed as, we need to categorize each and every patient, each and every ID as if they are in a high risk for having a heart disease or not. That is, if a patient has any two as positive or yes, that is amongst smoking, alcohol or diabetic. If any patient or any ID has the value yes for any two values out of these three, then that patient should be categorized as a high risk patient. So that's why here I am creating another column, which is a high risk indicator column, which will state that a patient is in high risk or a low risk based on this analysis. So we are gonna create that column and we're gonna name it as high risk indicator. Okay, I hit, okay, I clicked on enter by mistake. So we're gonna name our column as high risk indicator, and for this we are just gonna use if statements. So here what we're gonna do is we need to check that if a patient has two positives out of these three that I said. So for that I am gonna use inside another bracket, I am using another if function, and inside that if function I'm gonna pass first smoking. So if smoking is equals to yes, then we will give a value 1, else 0. We'll plus another if function, alcohol in drinking. If the value is yes, then we will give it 1, else 0, plus. So I hope you're getting how I'm writing this DAX query. That is, I'm using an if statement, and inside that if statement I will use three if statements. That too are inside a bracket. That will come to know shortly why I'm using that inside bracket again, because and for each and every if statement I am placing the category that I want to check for, and if the value is equals to yes, then I'm giving this if statement output as 1. If the value is yes, it will return 1, this particular if statement. Similarly this one, and similarly the next one, and if the value is false, it will return 0, and all the values will be getting added, and then we will check if the value is greater than equal to 2, because if out of these three values, if a patient has 2 yes, then the sum would be 2. So then it will categorize as a high risk patient. So the next if statement that I'm going to write is, and I'm going to pass diabetic column, and if the value is yes, then it will return the value 1, else 0, right? And if the all the sum of these three is greater than equal to 2, then I will be categorizing it as high risk, else low risk, and I'm gonna simply hit enter, and I'll have my column with all the values as I want. So to check, I am gonna just verify one value. As you can see, it is low risk, so the person is not diabetic and no alcohol drinking, no smoking, nothing. So that's why it has been categorized as low risk, and similarly we have all the values that we require. Now the next measure, we need to create couple of measures more. So the next measure that we're gonna create is for the average sleep time. So for average sleep time, I'm gonna use the average function simply and pass the sleep time column as the parameter and hit enter, and I'll have my measure right here. And now one last measure that I need to have is, as I've created this column for high risk indicator, now I want the number or the total number of patients that are in high risk category. Basically with this measure I can simply see that how many number of patients in which city, in which country, or in which, like if a person is suffering from diabetes and it is older age, or let's say middle age, it's a female, then I can have the total count of these, for these categories, that how many number of patients are in high risk indicator. So for that I just need a count from this high risk indicator column that we have just created for all the values of yes. So I'm gonna name this measure as number of people in high risk, and I'm gonna use calculate function, and I'm gonna pass the count for high risk indicator column, where the value is equals to high risk, and hit enter, and I'll have my measure right here. Okay, so that is all the measures and the columns that we require for our report. So now just let's head on creating our report. So here we are in our report view. So we'll start by adding a title to our report, which I'm giving as heart disease indicators report, and I am gonna make it bold. I want it in center. I want the font size to be 20, and now I'm gonna just
place this as how a title should be. Also, as I always say, don't forget to save your progress. So we will quickly save our progress so that you never lose track of your work. So we have saved our progress. Now for the color schema part, like which color do I need to use for the color of the title, the background colors, or what color schema that I use, so that, as I have told you, you can just, if you are not able to think that what color schema you should apply, so you can just go to internet and you can just go to this website called colorhunt.co, or you can go to colors.com and you can select a lot of color palettes. You can just enter a particular color which you need in your palette, and then it will give you lot of palettes with that particular color. Or you just need to, or you can just simply go on to the popular colors or the popular palettes that are present over there, and you can choose anyone from them. Okay, so I have used a color palette from that particular website, colorhunt.co itself, and so you can choose your color schema from any of the palettes amongst many color palettes present on the website. As I have told you, the two websites, you can search online for any color palettes and you can choose accordingly. So the color palette that I'm using for this report is also from a color hunt, which is this one. I am using this color palette. So you can just simply click on here and the hex code will get copied, and for the text color I'm using this particular red, which I have copied from there, as you saw. I'm gonna paste it over here and hit enter. Just a second. Okay, I need to type it again, I guess. Okay. Okay, so this is the hex code that I copied it from here, which is B8001F. So similarly, you can just pick colors from the color palette and you can design your report. So that's what the color I have chosen for my text in the title box, and for the background I will be again going to that color palette only. For the background color I will be using this color. I copied the code, I will paste it here, and see, I have my background color. For the effects part, I will turn on the shadow. I want the shadow. I don't want the border, so I'm keeping it off. So that's how we have designed our title for the report. Now next we are gonna add slicers. So click on slicer here, and we're gonna add mini slicers in this particular report because data set is accordingly. So the first slicer that we're gonna add is for the gender, which is here, and I'm gonna rename it for this particular slicer to
gender, perfect. For the formatting part, I'm going to go to format. I'm going to go to slicer settings. I want it to be tiles, and I want it to be like this, something like this. Yeah, and now we will format it as I want a background color for my slicer, which I will again choose from here. I will be choosing this color as the background. For this one, I will go to more colors and I'll paste the hex code, and I have my background color. For the title, slicer header, I want the font to be this, font color to be white, and or I can have the font color this one also. For the values part, the font color will be black, and the background would be this one. Border color would be black again. Value would be semi bold. Similarly, this value here, that would be bold. Okay, I need to turn off the responsiveness, because then only I can see the changes in the size of the title or the header for the slicer. So for that, I need to go in properties and advanced options and turn on the responsiveness, and you can see this, the size of the slicer header changed. Now I have to decrease it because it's just too much. I think 11 is fine, or 10 is fine. I think 11 is fine. Perfect. So that's how we have created our first slicer, just like that. And now we will be creating another similar slicer. So what I'll do is I'll copy and I will paste, and I don't want gender. Instead, this time I just want, instead of gender, this time I'm gonna place heart disease in the slicer as a yes or no button that we'll have for, if you want our analysis for a patient, for all the patients suffering from heart disease, then we can click on yes. And similarly, if you want it for all the non-suffering heart patients, we can click on no, or we can select both for the analysis of the whole data set. So I'll remove this from here. I'll place heart disease, and I want the visual having the header just like heart disease only. So yeah, perfect. That's our second slicer. The third slicer that we'll add would be for the age groups that we have created. So I'm gonna drag and place age groups over here, and I want them to be in the list form only. For the formatting part, I'll select this, I'll click on format painter, and I'll paste the formatting. Now I'm going to go to slicer settings and I will select vertical list, and I will be selecting the selection option, and I'll turn off this option so that I can select multiple values. Perfect. So that's how we have our third slicer. We'll place it right here. Now we're gonna create our next slicer, which is also gonna be a yes no slicer, which will be for the next slicer is not gonna be a yes no slicer, it is for the race part, and I want it to be a drop down list, so I'll go here. Okay, first I'll select this, I'll click on the format painting, I'll copy the formatting to this slicer, and then I'll go to slicer settings and I want it to be a drop down, so it will be a drop down. Perfect. See, as step by step we are building each and every element of our report, and our report is building on each step. It becomes more and more beautiful, and this color palette is even more beautiful that I have picked from Color Hunt. So I'll suggest you all to also pick color palettes, trending color palettes or color palettes that go along with the particular color that you need in your report. Please go and search color palettes. There are so many beautiful color palettes present on internet, and you can choose anyone from them. And as we are building our report step by step, it is looking even more beautiful. So for the next slicer, that would be a yes no slicer, would be for the patients is either suffering from asthma or not. So for that, we'll drag and drop asthma over here. We'll select this, we'll click on format painter, we'll paste the formatting here, and we'll arrange the slicer, and that's it. So we'll arrange it like this, and we'll place it over here. Okay, now the next slicer that we'll add is again gonna be a yes no slicer, that would be for either the patient is suffering from a kidney disease or not. So we'll simply drag and drop kidney disease column right here. We'll click on this, we'll copy the formatting and we'll paste the formatting over here. And then what we're gonna do is just arrange it and place it over here. Perfect. So that is how we're gonna arrange and place each and every slicer step by step, and we will create our very last slicer, which will be for high risk indicator, whether the patient is suffering from high risk or low risk. So for that, I'm just gonna click on this one, click on format painter, click on here and copy the formatting, and I will place this indicator right here. I need to place it right here. For that, I'll adjust the above indicators a little bit, just like this. So you all also need to do and build your report just like this as I am building. And this arrangement part is sometimes, this part gets, this is the most less interesting part, to arranging your cards and slicers and everything accordingly, adjusting each by it adjusting it by each and every pixel. This is the hectic part only. Okay, perfect. So we have completed and added all the slices that we need. So we'll quickly save our progress. Now we are gonna create our cards. So we'll select cards and we will create our very first card, which will be for average BMI. Now for the formatting, I will quickly go to the call out value. I'll select call out bold. I'll make sure the size is reduced. I will also be putting an background color. We always do with this one. With a transparency of about 20. I think 20 looks good. Now I need to format it a little bit more. You know, the font color and the font style. And at last adding the border and the shadow. This is the border, this is the shadow. For the border I want rounded corners of about 4 pixels. Perfect. Last part is just changing the callout category name. So we'll click rename for this particular visual. We just want to correct this to this. And that's how we have created our very first card. So we'll just select this and copy paste and create multiple like this one. So we will be creating 4 cards. So here we have our 4 cards. So in the second card, that we will be having an average sleep time value, and I want it to be renamed and change it to average sleep time properly. Perfect. For the third card, I want to look at how many positive number of patients are there for heart disease. So for that, I'm gonna remove this one and I'm gonna place my measure that we have created for patients suffering heart disease. And I'm gonna rename it for this particular visual. And I'm gonna rename it to as number of positive patients. Number of positive patients. And what we will do is, in the fourth card, what we will do is, we want total number of high risk patients which are under high risk. I want the total number that to flash on a card. So for that, we are again place and use one of the measures that we have created earlier, that is for the number of people and I'm gonna rename it to as high risk patients. high risk patients. And perfect. For this one also I'll rename it to as this is quite long category label, so I'll just rename and make it to positive patients, because it is quite evident and one will understand that what is this number, and this is the total number obviously. So these are the 27,000 positive patients and 33,000 high risk patients. Now we'll just adjust the card size and make sure that they are all of the same size, and we'll place them accordingly. So we need to just resize them. Perfect. Now we need to just place them here. The next would be right here. This one would be right here, and this one would be right here. Perfect. So that's how we have created all our cards. And now we'll move ahead to creating our report further by adding and creating more charts. So the first chart that we're going to create is a pie chart. Yes, a pie chart. And we'll create a pie chart that shows how many number of people are there in each and every age group. Basically, the value would be the total number of people present in the data set, and the data set on which we are going to categorize it would be the age group. So in the legend part, I will add age group column that we have created, and in the value part, that would be the count of heart disease. Perfect. So here we have our chart, and for this one I am gonna use the background color to be this light color that we have used, which is present right here, and the title would be people by age group. People by age group, that would be the title, and I want it to be in center with this font along with the background color, which would be this blue that we have used everywhere. So the text color would obviously be white, or should I say the text color would be this one. Perfect. Now for the legend part, I need to first reduce its size to 8. I need to change the font color to black, and the title of the legend shouldn't have this underscore, and the font should be semi bold, or it was okay this way only. Now for the detail labels, we have the values should be in black, and they should be semi bold. Now just the last part of arranging the color of the slices. So for this one, I'm using this color that I have used, which is this color, and for the next one, For the young age, I'll be using the red color that we have used in the title, and for this one, I'll be using the third color from the color palette, or the last color that I haven't used till now in the from the color palette, that is this one. I'll copy its code, I'll go back to my report, I'll will go on to more colors and paste it. And that's how we have created our pie chart, or the very first chart for this report. And I want the shadow, not the border. So I'll just make sure that the size of this is perfect. Yeah, now that's perfect. So we'll save our progress and we will move on to creating our next chart, which is going to be a clustered column chart. And in this chart, we want basically the average BMI versus the physical activity or the physical health of a person. That is, if a person is physically active or not, and what is the condition of its physical health, among the values that have been present in our data set, to be compared to the average BMI of that person, because it is also an important indicator for analyzing that a person is suffering from heart disease or not. So in the y-axis part, I want the average BMI to be there, and the x-axis part, I'll be putting physical health, and in the legend, I will be adding physical activity. Perfect. So that it gives me a clear analysis of if a person is working out or not, and what is the analysis. So for this one, okay, first let's adjust the size of these cards a little bit. As I said, this is the most boring and uninteresting part, adjusting the size and placing them. So I am doing it, and yeah, okay. Now for this one, I will be selecting this chart, and I'm going to click on format painter and paste the formatting right here. Now I just need to change the title, color of the columns. First I'll change this for this visual to this. Similarly, I need to change, okay, it is loading, and similarly I need to rename this to this. Similarly for this one as well. Now I need to change the title, that would be average BMI by physical health versus, okay, it looks cool if you write this, average BMI versus physical health and physical activity. And I want the legend to be in the center instead of top left. Now I will change the color of the columns. So for the yes part, for the physical activity, I want the color to be this blue, and for the no part, the physical activity, I want the color to be this. But these two colors doesn't look good together in a clustered column chart as they both are dark colors. So I will change this color to this shade of gray. This is too light. Okay, I'll change it to this shade of gray or this shade of gray. Yeah, perfect. This combination looks good. And for the data labels, if I turn on the data labels, there's no point. They aren't looking good. This should be, yeah, perfect. And similarly for the x-axis and y-axis, the titles should be perfectly in the font style which is maintained throughout the report. So these are the small things that you need to take care of while creating a report, because these are all good practices to follow. And that's how a report should ideally look like. And so we will just save our progress till here. Perfect. Now we will be creating another chart which would be a clustered bar chart. And we want to show in this chart or bring out the analysis that we want to bring out this in this chart is between the general health and the number of people smoking, because smoking is common activity and it is a major reason for heart disease. So we want an analysis for the general health of people versus how many people among them are smoking. And there will be each and every category of general health as good, excellent, fair, or very good, and whatever categories are there. So for that analysis, I think clustered bar chart is the appropriate option to go with. So in the x-axis I need smoking, which will be basically the count of smoking, and in the y-axis I need the general health column, which is here. For the legend I need smoking again for the people smoking and people non-smoking, smokers and non-smokers. For the formatting, I'll click on this, I'll click on format painter and I'll paste the formatting here. Now we need to just rename and change the color of the bar. For this, I think count of smoking, or should I say count of people? Yeah, okay. And now for the color of the bars, for the no value, I'll use again this gray color as I use here, and for the yes value, we'll be using that blue color, which is this one. And you see, I don't want the slicer to be present over here. As you can see that there's a slicer coming, because we can't extend this chart as we don't have the margin. So we need to change the size of the canvas a little bit by the width and also in height. So we'll go to the canvas settings, go to custom, and we will increase this to 1300, height to around 750. That is good. That looks good. And we will adjust it right here. And I think I should place these little bit here. Perfect. Now what I'm gonna do is first we will save our progress till here as always. So we will save our progress and then we will move on to create our next chart. Before that, I need the data labels to turn on and just basic font formatting. So I'll turn on the data labels, and in the x-axis and y-axis part, I need to change the color of the values to black. Okay, perfect. Just the title that is left to change, which will be general health versus smoking. That's the title I'm gonna use here, like this. Perfect. We'll save our progress and we'll move on to create our next chart, which will be a donut chart that will show us the analysis of how many people present in our data set are suffering from diabetes. Basically, it will categorize all the number of people present in our data set into categories of diabetes present in our data set, which is yes for a person having diabetes, no, borderline, and yes during pregnancy. So we will categorize all the people present into these diabetic categories, as diabetes is another very important factor and it is responsible for heart disease as well. So we need to see how many people are lying in which category, for the people suffering from heart disease or not, or for both. So in the legend part, I'm gonna add diabetic column, and in the values part, I'm gonna add the count of heart disease, basically the total number of people present in our data set. For the formatting part, I'm gonna select this, click on this, copy paste the formatting. So first go to legend, I'm gonna go to this, I'm gonna change it to this particular formatting, and I want it to be in the top center. And what else I want? I will change the color of the slices, along with first I will change the title, which is people by diabetes. Or what should be the title of this one? People suffering from diabetes. No, that's too long. That's I think count of people by diabetes is okay, so I'm gonna go with that. Next, I'm gonna change the color of the slices, of course. For the no part, I'm gonna keep it to this blue. For the yes part, I'm gonna keep it to this one. For yes during pregnancy, I'm gonna keep it to red. For the borderline, I'm gonna keep it to gray. Perfect. So we will save our progress and we will create our next and the last chart for this report before it gets completed. That will be the chart that shows us the analysis of average BMI and average sleep time, both at the same time versus the mental health. That is, for each and every mental health value that has been present in our data set, that what is the mental health of people, if it is good or bad, then respectively what are their average BMI or average sleep time, because mental health affects sleep time and both are an indicator for an heart disease. So we are going to use that, and for that we are going to use an area chart. And the x-axis, as I said, I want it to be mental health, so I'll place mental health in the x-axis, and y-axis I'm going to place two values which are average BMI and the second value would be average sleep time. These are the two values that I want. For the formatting part, I'll just click on, you can choose any chart. I can click on this one, I'll copy the formatting and I'll paste it here. Now I need to format it myself a little bit. I'll first turn off the data labels, change the title, and the title would be average BMI and sleep time by mental health. Perfect. That's the title that I want. And for the legend part, I need, okay, first I'll change it to, or I'll rename it for this particular visual, this and this one, and this one I'll rename it to this. Similarly, I rename this because there isn't a space between these two. And for the y-axis, or okay, so I'm gonna go to y-axis here. I will go to title and I'll change it myself, or else I will remove the title because it is quite evident from the title of the chart as well. So I'm just gonna need to change the color of the line, so I can go to lines, I'll select color. First I'll change the color for the average BMI, which is going to be this blue again, and for the average sleep time I'm gonna put the color, or the color that I'm gonna use is this green. If it doesn't look good, then I can go with gray as well. The gray doesn't look good, I'm gonna go with this green itself. Perfect, it looks beautiful. Now we are gonna save our progress and we need to arrange our report again a little bit, because as you can see it isn't looking perfect. So for that, what I'm gonna do is I will reduce the size of this one, and okay, perfect. Okay, now it is looking perfect and it is looking beautiful. But what I'm thinking is, okay, no, wait, I need to arrange these indicators as well, because there is misplacement. So I need to place them correctly. first. I think this looks good. Yeah, this looks good. So now we are just heading towards the end of this tutorial. Just one thing, that this plain white color isn't looking great. So we're gonna go to canvas settings, canvas background, and we're gonna change the color to something very light, but which looks good. We're gonna reduce the transparency. Okay, this is too much, so we're gonna increase the transparency again. Yeah, just about right about there. Little bit more, little bit more, little bit more, little bit. Perfect. Okay, this is too much again, I think. Perfect. Now it looks great. Now our report looks perfect. And here we are done. So that's how we have created this beautiful looking report. And I love the way the colors are looking and going with each other. So I'll highly suggest everyone to choose colors from color palettes and choose your color schemas wisely. And so that's how we have created each and every chart, added each and every slicer along with the card, and we have learned 2 new DAX functions in this one. And that's it for this tutorial, and here's how we have completed our detailed report and we have built it right from scratch. And that's it for this tutorial. Thank you guys, thank you so much for watching.